failure is not deadly. Giving up is. And he said, I learned that day that, you know what? Rejection and failure are just speed bumps on the way to success. What's your question, Anna? How can I help you?
Well, my question is how to deal with failures and to keep the mind always fresh and positive, because I doubt myself when I'm losing time, and I'm getting sad of this, when I have the feeling that I didn't make the time really productive. Use it productive.
Yeah. Well, two things. First of all, dealing with failures, this is very similar to some of the other people in a little different way. We have this delusion that success in life is everything you do works the way you expect. And in reality, the most successful people, as I already mentioned earlier, are the ones that have failed 10 times more than you. So they learned more faster. They were willing to fail more often, and they didn't store it as failure. That's the problem. When most people don't meet their expectations, I'm supposed to do this by now. Like I said yesterday, most of the time in the early part of my career, I overestimated what I would do in a year, and I was disappointed. But I underestimated what I'd do in a decade or 2 or 3 or now 4.5, right? And so our expectations are part of the problem as far as that's concerned. But also, you need to develop the skill. It's like so many people start a business. I do like this business mastery program, and I'm always blown away. I do 5 days and nights with people from more than 100 countries, all business owners. Some have billion-dollar businesses like the guys from Airbnb that come, and some have not even started their business, or they have a business doing $100,000 gross, right? And we're all together for these events, day and night, night and day. And what you start to see is many people have never developed the skill to run a business. They just thought, I should know how to do this. I have a great product. I have a great passion. I love my customers. But there are various skills that if you don't have them, that's why most businesses are gone in 5 years, right? Half are gone in the first year. 80% are gone in 5 years. 96% of all businesses are gone in any 10-year period of time. That means 4% make it. That doesn't even mean they're profitable. It just means they make it. But people have this idea that, I should just know all this stuff. But no, you got to learn these skills. And if you go to business school, they're giving you projections and projects, and usually by a professor that has never built a business. Just so crazy, right? So the reason I bring this up is the skill of maximizing your time is a skill. And I had to figure it out because in the early days, I was overwhelmed. I used to make my to-do list and say, what's an A and a B and a C priority and all that stuff, right? But after a few months, I was like, shit, I might as well not do this because I never get my whole list done. It's just making me feel like a failure. Can you relate?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so I began to realize that all thinking is asking and answering questions. That's what thinking is. And for me to get things done, I have to think a certain way. So what's the question I'm asking? What do I got to do? What do I got to do? What do I got to do? Wrong question. If you keep asking what to do and keep a to-do list, I know you're stressed. If you're a productive person, and as I started expanding, having multiple companies, it was impossible. So I began to realize the real question for my life to matter, for me to feel productive, for me to be in a position I can move forward, I need to answer first the question, what do I really want? What's my outcome? What's the result? Because if I ask what to do, it depends on what you want. Remember, I think I mentioned, I get this phone call from President Clinton. He says they're going to impeach me in the morning. What should I do? Remember? I'm like, could you call me sooner was the first question, right? But then my second question was, you're asking the wrong question, Mr. President, because you don't know what to do unless you first ask, what do you want? Otherwise, what you're going to do is what everybody throws at you or what you think you should do or your base conditioning or whatever seems urgent. You got to say, what do I really want? Do you want to stay president? Do nothing. They're not going to impeach you. The Senate's not going to. You want moms and dads to tell their kids how incredible the President of the United States is and be a role model? Then you're going to probably have to do something different. So the first question to teach yourself, I teach this thing called RPM. RPM means results-focused, purpose-driven, massive action plan, or the rapid planning method, RPM. If you know cars, If you increase the RPMs, you have more power to get from here to there faster. It's 3 questions. I teach it as a system, like a time management system, but the base of it is 3 questions. Question 1, what do I really want? What's the outcome? And what I want from this week? And there'll be more than one outcome, but I try to say, what are the 3 to 5 to thrive? What are the 3 to 5 most important things? There'll be all kinds of other shit that shows up. What are the most important 3, 4, or 5 things I want to accomplish this week or this day or this month? And I get crystal clear, because clarity is power. Your brain, when it knows exactly what it wants, will figure things out. But most people are asking what to do, and it's like whatever's around, whatever has to be done, whatever's coming at them, and they're out of control. Second, I then ask, why do I want it? I know this sounds simplistic, but I'll give you an example. I remember one day I came home. This is years and years ago. I was in my early 20s. I was exhausted. It was before email. That's how old I am. It was before social media. And I had been on the road, and I came back, and there was a list. I don't remember the real size, but let's make it up, like 150 messages I had. 150. And I just got off traveling for 12 hours, 13 hours from Australia. I was exhausted physically. And I look at this list. Holy shit, this is going to take me a couple days to get back to all these people. And I'm feeling stressed. Why? Because it was a to-do list with no outcome and no purpose, right? Purpose is where the power is. You say, I want to make $1 million. That's nice. Why? Well, make $1 million because it feels good. That's probably not going to do it. You're going to have to get through bigger obstacles. But if you go, I want to make $1 million so I can put my son through Harvard, I want to buy my mom a home and my dad his truck, and those people matter to you, now there's an emotion to get you to follow through towards that outcome. But when you know the outcome and why you want it, so for me, I look at this list and it was just like, I got to call these people. I have to. No, I read the list and I was like, what's my real outcome? The President of the United States was one of the people on the list. A very famous actor that I really like was on the list. A business partner who I love was on the list. But it was just to do. So I was like, okay, what's my outcomes? My outcomes is to support this person. My outcomes is to get back to my business partners to make sure they're totally supported. Why? Because they deserve it, because I love them, because whatever. And now I look at my list, and what I began to see is I could call some of them together. I'm going to put these 3 people on a conference call. Let's all do it together, knock off 4 at a time. How to get to the goal? That's the last question. So it's, what do I want? What's my outcome? What's the result? And you get real clear what you want, not general. Because you go, I want more money. Here's $1. You're done, right? I want to lose weight. You lose a pound. You're done. You got to be specific. Why do I want it? What are my reasons? My teacher, Jim Rohn, used to say, reasons come first, answers come second. If you get strong enough reasons why to do something, you can figure out how. And then you ask, okay, what do I need to do to get this done? And what I do is I create a massive action plan. I call it a map. And I write anything that I think I need to do. But I know I'm not going to do it all. So then I look at the list. I think about my outcome. I know the target. I know why I'm doing it. I go, okay, 20% of these things are going to give me 80% of that result. Let me asterisk the 20 that I'm actually going to do today or this week. Then my day gets interrupted, but I'm not trying to think of 100 action items. I have 6 outcomes or 5 that I'm trying to achieve. I know why I want to do it. And when I get interrupted, I go back and go, what am I after for today? And I do one of those 20%ers and it gets it done. So that's a real quick squeeze on RPM. But I have a program, if you want to get it, that's called The Time of Your Life. And it teaches you this process. But then one more thing. Failure. Nobody likes failure, right? Nobody wants to fail. So don't. Learn. See, the difference in your body between failure and learning are very big. Let me tell you a story. Just a real quick one. So I have a dear friend. His name is Peter Guber. He and I are partners in a variety of sports teams and things, but he's also just a genius. He has 52 Academy Award nominations. He's made everything from way back when, Midnight Express, Batman, all those movies. You name it, Rain Man. He made all these films, and he's been the head of a studio of Sony and Columbia and TriStar. He has his own studio now. He owns the LA Dodgers. He owns the Golden State Warriors. Together we own the LAFC Football Club. Total genius. Professor at UCLA part-time because he wants to give back. Unbelievably achieved guy. So I was asking Peter when I first got to know him 25, 30 years ago, and I never forgot the story he shared with me. I said, we all have certain events in our life that shape the way we look at life. And I said, Peter, you are so persistent. You never give up. it can look so dark and everybody else is freaking out and you just keep moving forward. I said, I really respect that. I said, I have some of that too, but I'm wondering what gave you that. What experience do you base it on? What belief? He said, Tony, it's interesting you see that. He goes, I pride myself in never giving up moving forward. But he said, you know where I got it from? When I was a little boy. And I don't remember how old he said he was, but I'm going to try and make it in my head. I think he was like in the 3rd grade or 4th grade. So he would have been like 8, 9 years old, right? And he said there was a neighbor kid. My house was a 2-story little house in this little, tiny little community. And the neighbor across the street, just to the right, his bedroom was up on top. My bedroom was up on top. So every now and then I glance across and see him. And one day he said, I see this kid, and I didn't realize when we first moved in that he was handicapped. He had some real physical challenges. And he said, one day, he said, I watched his dad take him outside. He could barely walk. And he had a 2-wheel bicycle with 2 training wheels on it. And he told his son to get on it. And then he gave him a shove and walked away. And the kid was, and crash. And the father got up and walked away while the kid's on the ground crying. And he said, Peter said, I couldn't believe how mean his father was. He said, I was so angry. I want to run down there. And my mom says, don't interfere. It's not your place. So he said the kid tried to get up, and he was on the ground for like 15 minutes, struggling, trying to do it. He finally kind of got the thing up, and eventually his dad come back, took the bike, and took the kid in the house. He said, Tony, this went on every day for 3 weeks. He said it was like a horror story. He said, I'm just this little kid, and I felt for this little boy, and his father doesn't give a shit about him. He said, I got in a fight with my mom at one point, and I said, you got to do something. Till one day, just like the other days, father came out, put the kid on the thing, gave him a shove, and then quickly stormed in the house so he's on his own, and the kid was, oh, and all of a sudden he started going, and he turned the corner and everything else, and he had momentum, and he looked down to see where the father was, and he saw the father was on the 2nd story cheering for his son, yelling out there for his son. And he went running down the stairs, and he took his son, and he fell down, and he picked him up, and he hugged him. And Peter just said he just cried his eyes out. And he said, that day I realized I learned something so important for my life, that father loved him because he let him struggle. He let him figure it out. He let him push through failure. He taught him that failure is not deadly. Giving up is. And he said, I learned that day that, you know what? Rejection and failure are just speed bumps on the way to success. And he said, Tony, it really served me because when I was 35 years old, he became, maybe in 34, he became the chairman of Columbia Pictures. The last chairman was 64. The man everybody thought they'd pick for chairman was a war hero in his mid-50s, and everybody loved the guy. And they picked this young punk Peter because he had insights about VHS and video that nobody was doing back then. And he said, Tony, I remember I took it on. He goes, I was scared as shit to fail. And he said a bunch of people were not rooting for me. And he said we made the first film I greenlighted, and we did the premiere. And he said, Tony, it was the worst film that you could ever make. It was so bad. He goes, I was just this is my first movie as head of the studio, and I could feel everybody looking at me. And he said, and when the film ended, there was no applause. And he said, I'm trying to figure out how to get out of this place. And he said, the war hero guy who thought he was going to be the CEO comes up to me. And he goes, hey, Peter, are you scared? And Peter said, I took a moment, I took a breath, and I said, yeah, I'm scared as shit. But you know something? I'm going to push forward, and we're going to make some great films, and nothing is going to stop me. And let me tell you why. And he said, I told him the story of the boy. And he said, at the end of the story, he had a tear in his eye. And he says, so what I've learned is failure is just a speed bump on the way to success. And all I do is get back up and keep pushing, and I will win. We will win as a studio. We will win together. And you're going to come with me, or you can antagonize. It's your option. But I want you to know what is driving me. And the man with a tear in his eye turned around. He went from his opponent to his supporter. And he said, and together they made all kinds of beautiful decisions. He learned from them. The ego got set aside, and their studio became #1. So I'm here to tell you, failure is a speed bump on the way to success. If you convert it to learning, there is no failure. Failure is you thinking it should work every time. It doesn't work that way. If you saw the number of things I'd failed at, you would understand I am not some superstar. I'm just one persistent mofo that won't give up, and I'm driven by my mission and my desire to serve, and I have a lot of emotion inside, and I see it in you too. So use that emotion. Use it to move you forward instead of move you back. Is that helpful?
Yes, absolutely.
Good.
Thank you so, so much.
You're so welcome. Love to you. Ladies and gentlemen, stand up. Give it up for her. Let's give it up for everybody for another beautiful day.